Hi there everybody, and welcome to another video. Today's video I have this Mercedes A200. This is a 2013 petrol automatic. I'm going to be changing the oil and the oil filter. I'm also going to top up some screen wash fluid, and I'm going to check the coolant percentage and also the coolant quantities. So I'm going to start by topping up some screen wash fluid. If you get the bonnet open, you will find the little tank just hiding on the right hand side here, blue cover, and we can add some of our screen fluid in there. So you can buy concentrated or ready mixed fluid from any petrol station or garage. The one I usually buy is this one here, which normally is concentrated, and I just mix it because it works out a little bit cheaper. Seems I'm doing different cars, so we can pour that in there. And well, that's basically that fluid is going to help you clean the windscreen, especially on days that it's raining a lot or you have snow or anything like that. And also it's not going to freeze if the temperatures are below certain degrees. If you put just water in there, water will freeze and it will not come out when you need it. Also, if you put some washing up liquid there, it's also going to it tends to become a bit of jelly type of consistency, and then it blocks the jets. So I would say just make sure you use the correct stuff. It's not really expensive, so just use the correct liquid and top that up, and avoid yourself issues. There we are. Now we can move on to checking the coolant. Coolant in this car, it's here. Just gonna open this cover. I warmed up the engine a little bit before, so it's not hot but it's warm. I warmed it up so I can drain the oil a little bit easier. And also just remember, if you're opening this cap and the car is really hot, then be careful. You can just open it carefully, let the pressure go, and then keep opening the cap, because although these caps are made for safety, they can fail as well. So again, avoid yourself any accidents and have a good experience rather than a bad one. So let's just put this here, and I'm gonna use one of these to check the percentage of antifreeze in here, because again, during winter we don't want this coolant to freeze, so we just want to make sure we have the correct antifreeze percentage in it. And I'm just sucking in a little bit of water, well, coolant, and this is going to tell me to what temperature this will resist. So it's showing me at the moment about minus 33 degrees, more or less, on that little window. So that means that the outside temperature will need to be minus 35 or so for this to freeze. So I think we have a good range there. I'm happy with the percentage of antifreeze, and now we can check the actual quantities. Now if you shine a light in there, I can see the fluid. It's a bit difficult to see actually because there's a bit of steam coming out, but there we can see a little bit better maybe. So we just want, mainly we want to make sure the antifreeze, it's in line. So I'm gonna shine that there, and I'm just gonna show you from the side here. Over there, we just wanted to make sure it's around this line here, where this container here is black at the top and is white at the bottom, and we want it to be in here in between, where the black and white meet. That's where we want our antifreeze to be. This one is showing a little bit below that, showing a little bit below, but very much acceptable. You can see it there as well. It's in line with this area here. It's just that up here this tank is a little bit the shape is slightly different, so that's why I'm happy with that level. There's no issues there, and don't need to top up any, and really don't need to do anything. And also you have that little white cross there. Normally that's a little reference point as well, where you want your antifreeze to be at. So I can see it's kind of sitting a little bit below that, because normally the coolant covers that little bit there, but we're talking about millimeters there. So if you found there is no coolant in here, that tank will look just clear. It'll be just clear white. No, you won't be able to see that greenish type of reflection, and then you have maybe a leak somewhere, so that would be a little bit of a problem, which then you would have to top it up and then have a look and check where that leak may be, because that would mean you're losing coolant, and that could be anywhere really. Radiator, any hoses, water pump. So in this case scenario, this is good. No issues. Close that cover. Percentage is good and quantities are good. So with that said and done, we can move on to the oil and the oil filter. Okay, so now we can concentrate on the oil and the oil filter. I'm going to take this cover out just to help us access the filter. Just need to pull this cover out, and then you'll find that the filter housing is down there, and we're going to need a 27mm socket that fits that. So one of these something like this. And maybe an extension and ratchet. So we can undo the filter. Okay, so it shouldn't really be too tight. It's normally tightened to just 25 Newton meters, so it should be easy to remove. So slowly we're gonna open it. As we open it, we're allowing wherever oil it's in that housing to drain down. So no need to rush there. Okay. I think that is loose now. So we can probably take it out by hand. So you could leave it there for 5 minutes or so, just so it drains properly and you don't get oil dripping when you pull it out. Could leave it there for a few minutes. In the meantime, we're also going to open the oil filler cap here, pull the dipstick a little bit, and that's going to allow some air to come into the system while we drain the oil from underneath. So okay, well, let's pull this filter out. We'll do it quickly. There we are. That's our filter, and we can tackle this while we drain the oil. So just another tip, if you're working outside, it could be windy, it could be anything, any conditions, so don't leave that open there. You could just put a bit of paper or a rag on it, so nothing kind of flies in there, any tree leaves or dirt or anything like that. Just cover it up while you're working underneath. So now I'm gonna get the car up. Okay, so looking at the car from underneath, we're gonna remove this cover. I've already loosened and removed the little 8mm screws that are holding the cover, so just remove them all. There's about 7 of them, and then we'll be able to remove this cover. We just have to slide it forwards a little bit, sorry, slide it backwards to release it from here, and then you'll be able to sort of bring it down. But I may need my 2 hands so it doesn't come down flying. So I'm just gonna take this cover out now. Okay, so I got the cover out. Now we can open the oil sump plug bolt. That's a 13mm. So I've got a 13mm socket there with my wrench, and we're gonna open that. And again, hopefully it's not too tight. So before you remove it all the way, obviously make sure you have an oil pan where you're gonna catch the oil. And again, if your engine's been running a lot before you do this, this oil can be very hot, so just be aware of that and don't burn yourself. You could always wait for it to cool down a little bit. And as I mentioned, I only warmed up the engine a little bit to let this oil come out a bit easier. And hopefully, I don't know how long this bolt is. There we are. So we can let that drain 5-10 minutes around till it's empty. Okay, so while our oil is draining, we can take care of the filter. So I'm just going to pull this filter out there. Can dispose of that. Just clean this a little bit. Not really something I normally do, it's not that necessary, but there we are. Get the O-rings out as well. Another O-ring there. That went off flying. Okay, now we have our new O-rings. Make sure it goes into the correct groove. And the little one there. Okay, now I'm going to put a little bit of grease around this O-ring. A little bit of grease, a little bit of oil. It's just mainly so when we fit this back in, we don't damage the O-ring, so it slides nicely when we are screwing this back in. Okay. And then we have just going to clean this cover a little bit. We have our filter. And push that all the way in, and that's it. That is ready to be fitted. So I'm just gonna wait a little while for my oil to drain, and then we'll carry on. Almost forgot, but I got the sump plug here with this O-ring, I mean this washer, copper washer, which is a little bit worn. So I'm just gonna get a new one. Can fit a new one there. The size of that copper washer is that 14 by 20 by 1.5 if you need to get one. So now we're ready, so I'll carry on just waiting for my oil to drain. So that's been dripping for a little while now. I'm just going to put my sump plug bolt back in there. And we can tighten these between 15 and 18 Newton meters. sometimes you can see some cars have the Newton meters reading on the side, but on average between 15 and 18. Not too hard. I don't actually have my torque wrench, but I do plenty of these, so and make sure you clean any oil that might be around, so you can tell next time you change the oil whether you tighten that good enough or not. Also, since you remove the cover, you can just inspect the engine around a little bit and see if you have any oil leaks anywhere, or that anything is developing. This engine is quite clean and clear. It's a fairly low mileage car anyway, so I'm not concerned with any leaks at the moment. And also, if you had a coolant leak, you could also check from underneath here as well if you have anything down on this end, or radiator, which is the front. Sometimes you can see marks and things. Anyway, I'm going to put the cover back in here now and then lower the car and we can finish the job. Okay, now we're ready to fit our filter, and just check the hole down there, make sure there's nothing there, nothing is flown, any birds, anything like that, and you can get your filter in there. So get it in there. By hand. Just have to make sure the center fits in the hole there. Okay, now that's in. I'm gonna twist it, screw it in by hand as much as I can. That way I make sure it's going in the correct way. And we can then use the tool. On top of that cover, it's written 25 Newton meters. So if you have a torque wrench, just go ahead and use it. But I've been doing this for quite some time, and I'm kind of used to it, so I know more or less how much to tighten this to. So I'm just gonna tighten that up now. Okay, so that's that. And now we're pretty much ready to put some oil in there. So the manual says 5.8 liters. So I'm gonna put 5 liters first. I've got my 5W30 here. So I'm just gonna pour that in there and then I'll come back to put the 0.8. Okay, so I got 5 liters in there. Just got my 0.8 measured on this can. So just pour it slowly in there, so it doesn't come back out. Okay, we got the oil in there. Now we're just gonna have a quick look at the dipstick there. Okay, so looking at the dipstick here, we have a minimum at this end and a maximum at this end. You have some writing in there. It says max and min. So max and min. And we're aiming to be at the max here. Now it might be a little bit over at the moment, because once we run the engine, some of the oil will go into the oil filter housing, and then it will drop a little bit. So let's have a look at this. Okay, can't quite see very well, but okay. All right, so I can see the oil is just up here. You can see the shine just on the max area where it's actually written max. That's where the oil is, so that's pretty much expected. Like I said, that oil will then drop a little bit because it will go into the oil filter housing. So with that done, we can just go ahead and close that. Okay, so we can close that. And I'm just going to spray a little bit of grease on these mounts. That's just where this cover here sits. I think it's just 4 of them. And then we can actually put this back on there. And you will notice that it will go in a little bit easier, and also next time you pull it, it will come out a bit easier as well. And we practically finished here, so I'm just gonna start the car. So all is good in here, no oil pressure lights, no oil lights at all, and engine sounds and it's running sweet. So that's pretty much it really. So on that note, I hope this video helps. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching.